Then I started seeing it everywhere, and I just became the biggest Luka fan. It just hit me instantly. You ever get that feeling when something just hits you instantly? I'm like, this the best player in the world.
Who do you think won the trade?
As of right now, currently, as it stands today, you lace them up, you go out there and play tomorrow. It's Dallas. That's a made team.
If this were Mark Cuban still owning a majority stake in the Dallas Mavericks,
that wouldn't happen.
There is no way that Luka Doncic would be out of Dallas. But because he's no longer the majority owner, and that belongs in the hands of the Adelson family, they weren't having it.
Now you start to say to yourself, 25-year-old superstar, they get rid of him in the middle of the night without telling his representation, without telling him something else is going on. And what I love about the internet is you hear all the conspiracy theories. So let me address one conspiracy theory that I was a part of. He's out of shape.
The NBA trade deadline always brings its share of chaos, but the 2025 season, this one felt straight out of a Hollywood blockbuster. Just when things seemed to be settling, boom, the entire basketball world flipped upside down. Luka Doncic was traded. Yes, Luka Doncic, the heart and soul of the Dallas Mavericks, a generational talent with unreal skill, court vision, and basketball IQ. The kind of player you don't just build around, you never let go. He turned the Mavs into must-watch TV, and now he's gone. The shock hit instantly. Players, analysts, and fans scrambled to make sense of the unthinkable. How does a franchise even consider moving a player like this? Was there tension behind the scenes? A secret rift between Luka and the front office? Did the Mavs see something the rest of us missed? And then, the conspiracy theories started flying. No matter what the real story is, one thing is undeniable. The NBA will never be the same after this move, and of course, the biggest voices in basketball had plenty to say. From NBA legends who know what it takes to carry a franchise to media personalities who live for these blockbuster moments, everyone had an opinion. Today, we're breaking it all down. The reactions, the fallout, and what this means for Luka, his new team, and the entire league. Buckle up. This one's going to be a wild ride. First up, the Big Diesel himself, Shaquille O'Neal, one of the most dominant forces the game has ever seen, and now an analyst who never holds back. When it came to Luka's trade, Shaq had some strong opinions. And let's just say, he wasn't impressed with how the Mavericks handled things. In a recent segment, Shaq called out Dallas for blindsiding their franchise superstar, questioning the decision-making of a front office that just let go of one of the greatest talents of this generation.
Well, obviously, Dallas didn't want to move forward with one of the greatest young players that we've seen today. I wish the business of basketball could have been handled a little better. You would think a guy that 5 years in the league, 5 first-team All-NBAs would at least get the conversation like, hey, things are not going well. This could possibly happen.
Shaq's point is loud and clear. This isn't just some role player we're talking about. This is Luka Doncic, a generational talent, the kind of player you build a franchise around, not someone you just casually ship off like an expiring contract. And yet, Luka wasn't even given a real heads up before the move. That's not just bad management. That's a complete breakdown of trust between player and organization. But here's where Shaq's take gets even more interesting. Despite calling out the Mavs for how they handled things, he actually believes they might have come out ahead in the trade. I think Dallas won the trade for the next 2 years anyway. Wait, what? How does that even make sense? Losing a player like Luka should be a disaster for any franchise. But according to Shaq, there's more to the story. Anthony Davis paired with Kyrie Irving might make the Mavericks competitive in the short term, but the real question remains, can they truly replace Luka's impact? Can you take away one of the most skilled offensive weapons in the league and somehow get better? Or is this just Shaq trying to find a silver lining in a move that left the NBA world in total shock? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, this trade isn't just about who wins the next 2 seasons. It's about who set themselves up for long-term success. Enter Jason Gallagher. The NBA analyst wasted zero time roasting the Mavericks front office for what he called a textbook case of overthinking. In a tweet that instantly went viral, Gallagher pulled no punches.
Nico, you've reached idiocracy. Do you know that term? It's where you think you've gotten so smart that you've actually kind of circled around and now you're actually, like, that's the word. It's not idiocy, it's idiocracy. you've overthought this one a little bit. You did not zag while everyone was zigging.
The Mavericks front office thought they were playing 4D chess, but they actually just flipped the board over and knocked all the pieces onto the floor. Jason Gallagher's shot at GM Nico Harrison was brutal. His reference to Idiocracy was a clear dig, suggesting that in trying to be the smartest guy in the room, Harrison may have just outsmarted himself. And that last line, "You did not zag while everyone was zigging," that was Gallagher's way of saying the Mavericks thought they were making a bold, unconventional move, but instead they may have just made one of the most baffling decisions in NBA history. And Gallagher is not alone. From fans to analysts to former players, the overwhelming reaction to Luka's trade has been disbelief. The frustration isn't just about losing a superstar, it's about how poorly the Mavs seem to have handled it. But if you thought that take was harsh, wait until you hear what the No Dunks podcast had to say. If you want brutal honesty with a side of comedy, No Dunks never disappoints. When the Luka trade news broke, the crew wasted no time ripping into Dallas's so-called logic, if you can even call it that. One of the hosts summed it up perfectly.
It's like the Mavs read Twitter and said, oh, people don't like Luka's conditioning and they don't like his defense. Throw that out there as a reason that we traded him.
Yes.
There's no possible good reason to trade Luka Doncic. He could weigh 350 pounds and still be the best player on the court.
Luka's conditioning? Sure, it's been debated. His defense? Not always perfect. But using that as a reason to trade away one of the most electrifying offensive talents of this generation? That's like selling a Ferrari just because the cup holders aren't your style. The Mavericks' decision feels more like they were searching for a way to justify the move rather than making a sound basketball choice. And let's be honest, no matter how they try to explain. Fans and analysts are all asking the same thing. What was the real reason behind this trade? So far, nobody has a solid answer. Kevin Garnett has always been an intense competitor, but his ability to break down the NBA game is just as sharp. And when it comes to Luka's trade, KG isn't buying the surface-level explanations. On a recent episode of KG Certified, he dropped some inside info that had conspiracy theories running wild.
Oh, this is Nike. All these guys are Nike guys.
Boom.
People don't know Nico is an ex-Nike guy.
Right.
Kobe. This is Kobe certified right here.
Right.
Nico is a Kobe guy. He might not even be a Nike guy. He a Kobe guy. So whatever Kobe was talking about, that's what Nico was on.
Right.
The Lakers know Kobe. The Lakers know Nico very well. You hear me?
Very well.
Very well. So I start just connecting all the dots. Luka, Jordan guy. Anthony Davis, Nike guy.
So what exactly is KG hinting at? He's suggesting that this trade might not have been just about basketball. Instead, he points to a possible behind-the-scenes power move, one influenced by brand affiliations and long-standing business relationships. Think about it. Luka is a Jordan brand athlete. The Lakers' Anthony Davis, a Nike guy. And let's not forget Mavericks GM Nico Harrison, whose deep ties to Nike, especially through Kobe Bryant's camp, raise some interesting questions. Could these connections have played a role in the trade? At first, it sounds like a stretch, but if you know the NBA, you know trades aren't always just about X's and O's. Business deals, relationships, and brand influence often shape where players land. And let's be real, whenever the Lakers are at the center of a blockbuster trade, fans and analysts start hunting for hidden motives. Is KG onto something, or is he just connecting dots that don't actually lead anywhere? Either way, this deal was already packed with drama, and now this theory just adds another layer to the chaos. And if you followed the NBA long enough, you know Brian Windhorst doesn't throw around shock and disbelief for no reason. The wee man has covered this league for decades. He's seen it all, yet even he was stunned by this move. When breaking it down, Brian could barely believe what he was saying.
I've never seen anything like this. And Luka is 25 years old, okay? He is under contract for several more years, and this summer he is already eligible for a Supermax. I find it completely unbelievable that he would not sign that contract. The Mavericks didn't think that going forward with Luka was best for their franchise. Think about that statement.
Let that sink in for a moment. The Mavericks didn't see Luka as their long-term future. We're talking about a 25-year-old generational talent, already one of the league's best, on the verge of signing a Supermax extension that could have locked him in for years, and instead of building around him, they traded him away. If that doesn't sound absolutely wild, I don't know what does. Brian Windhorst's reaction says it all. This isn't just surprising, it's unprecedented. Luka wasn't an unhappy superstar on the last year of his contract. He wasn't demanding a trade. Yet for some reason, the Mavericks decided they couldn't build a winner around him, and instead of tweaking their roster, they went for the nuclear option, hitting the reset button, which raises the biggest question of all. What does that say about their vision for the future? What does this say about the Mavericks' faith in the team they built? What does it reveal about Luka's behind-the-scenes relationship with the organization? And most importantly, will they regret this for years to come? Because right now, it feels like they just made a franchise-altering mistake. If there's one person who always has the inside track on blockbuster NBA moves, it's Shams Charania. The man lives for breaking news, yet even he was left stunned by how this trade unfolded. In a recent interview, Shams broke down just how blindsided everyone was by the deal.
This deal materialized in the shadows. This came out of nowhere. This is maybe the most stunning trade, definitely that I've been a part of in recent NBA history, as far as it was never clearly out there. And I'm told Luka Doncic, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, the players, coaches, a lot of people on both sides with the Mavericks and Lakers had no idea. I can assuredly tell you it's a fact. LeBron James had no idea this was coming.
They let that sink in. Even LeBron James, one of the most connected and influential players in NBA history, had no idea this was happening. No leaks, no cryptic tweets, no warning signs. The deal just happened. That kind of secrecy is almost unheard of in today's NBA. Usually we get weeks, sometimes months, of speculation before a major trade goes through. Rumors swirl, agents drop hints, insiders dig up details. But this was like waking up to find out the sun had suddenly turned blue. The fact that this trade blindsided not just fans but players and coaches too shows how tightly the Mavericks and Lakers kept their negotiations under wraps. Whether you see this as a strategic masterstroke or a franchise-crippling mistake, one thing is certain. This wasn't just another trade. This was a seismic shift that sent shockwaves through the entire NBA. And just when you thought the reactions couldn't get any wilder, Kenny Beecham entered the chat. One of the most passionate and knowledgeable sports content creators out there, Kenny's response to the Luka trade was as raw and unfiltered as it gets. In his reaction video, he looked just as stunned as the rest of the basketball world. Because, honestly, who wasn't?
Quite literally, the craziest trade in NBA history just went down. I still can't believe that it is true. I still cannot believe that this is the reality that we are living in right now, where the Dallas Mavericks have Luka goddamn Doncic, and they traded for Anthony Davis.
This isn't just a big trade. It's a franchise-altering, league-shaking, history-defining move that people will be talking about for decades. Because let's be real, Luka Doncic isn't just another superstar. He's the kind of player franchises dream of landing. A generational talent who can take over a game, turn the impossible into routine, and drop video game numbers night after night. And the Mavericks traded that away. Kenny Beecham's reaction? It perfectly captures what most NBA fans are feeling. The guy who was supposed to be Dallas's future is suddenly gone. Yes, Anthony Davis is an elite player. No doubt about that. But there's no ignoring the massive risk that comes with this deal. Factor in Anthony Davis's health, always a concern. And suddenly, this trade looks even riskier. Meanwhile, Luka? Say what you want about his conditioning or defense, but since the day he stepped into the league, he's been unstoppable. And now the debate begins. Was this a moment of brilliance from the Mavericks? A move that will pay off in ways we can't yet see? Or was it one of the biggest mistakes in recent NBA history? Analysts and insiders can break down the numbers, the contracts, and the strategy all they want. But there's one group that feels the impact in a way no stat sheet ever could. The fans. And for Mavericks supporters, Luka Doncic leaving Dallas is nothing short of heartbreaking. One lifelong Mavs fan took to social media to pour out their emotions, and their post quickly went viral.
I've been a Mavs fan my whole entire life since I've been a baby. This is the worst moment in the history of my life. This is ridiculous. This is crazy, man. We went to the NBA Finals. Why are we trading the best player, the franchise player? How are we trading the franchise player? We went to the NBA Finals. He's supposed to have a statue. Hell yeah. He's supposed to have a statue.
That's the kind of impact Luka had on this franchise. To this fan, and countless others, Luka wasn't just a player. He was the player. The one who was supposed to bring another championship to Dallas after Dirk. The name kids would wear on their jerseys for the next 2 decades, the guy they expected to see immortalized in bronze outside the arena one day. This isn't just about losing a superstar. It's about losing the future. For years, fans believed Luka was the foundation of the next great Mavericks era. And in an instant, that vision was ripped away. Heartbreak like this, it doesn't just fade overnight. No matter how this trade plays out, whether it ultimately helps or hurts the Mavericks, one thing is certain: the fan base may never fully forgive the front office for making this move. And then there's the other side of the story: the secrecy. How did this trade stay under wraps for so long? That's where Carmelo Anthony comes in. NBA trades usually come with weeks of rumors, leaks, and insiders dropping hints left and right. But this one, nobody saw it come. And for Carmelo, that's exactly what made it so impressive. In a recent interview, Melo praised how the deal was handled behind the scenes, because in today's NBA, pulling off a trade this big without a single leak is almost unheard of.
I think the way that it transpired was super dope. In context of the secrecy, the nobody knew, keeping this between mano y mano. If this gets out, it's over with. Like, that had to be, like, that's real trust that you had to have.
One thing is certain: this trade wasn't just surprising, it was handled with a level of secrecy that's rare in today's NBA. And that might be one of the most unexpected parts of this entire saga. Right now, the Luka Doncic trade has all the signs of a franchise-defining moment. Major decisions, shocked players, frustrated fans, and a front office move that still doesn't quite add up. But what if there's more going on behind the scenes? According to the Locked On Mavericks podcast, Luka's departure may not have been just about basketball. Instead, it could be part of a larger strategy by the Mavericks' new ownership group, one focused less on championships and more on business, influence, and potentially even the growing role of sports gambling. In a recent episode, the hosts explored a theory that adds a whole new perspective to this already unpredictable trade.